Kill Complacency, a podcast that inspires growth and intentionality and helps you overcome your greatest obstacles.
So my guest today is Kim O'Hara, aka Deborah, or Debbie. Just kidding. I called her that.
It's my stripper name.
Yeah, I mentioned that when she got on this a little bit ago. So anyway, Kim is a podcast host as well of The Delicious Life. And she's written at least one book. You're writing a second book?
Yeah.
But you do a lot of writing.
A lot.
No longer denying sexual abuse. People call you a truth teller. What else do we need to know about you, Kim? What's your backstory?
I was a movie producer and screenwriter for 20 years. And I did that in New York and LA. And so I've always been a storyteller. I've always been interested in those sort of darker stories for most of my life. Drug addicts, fraud. That was independent film. And what I didn't realize was a lot of that was like me inside that I hadn't really written about myself and my own demons yet. Get into your 40s, which I believe for most people are where like it gets real. If life hasn't gotten real yet, it's going to get real in your 40s. You're going to do a lot of growing up. And that's when I faced a lot of demons like alcoholism, sexual abuse. I got divorced and became a single parent. And I had to build a business really fast because I had nothing. I didn't even have a financial portfolio. So writing that book about sexual abuse was at first for me. And then I started going on a lot of panels and I started meeting people that were advocates in that field, particularly Sue-Ann Pien, the actress who is autistic, and she wrote my foreword. I realized that I was writing it for other people as well. And then I became extremely passionate I already was passionate about the self-help world because that's what I help people write.
Yeah.
But I became even more passionate about it.
So you wrote it initially for yourself? Is that what you said?
I wrote it initially. Yeah. Initially, it was a memoir and it was called Kicking Abuse in the Ass. And it was completely memoir. And I went to go put it out. This was in 2017 and I choked. Like I couldn't even promote it. Like I hadn't done enough work within myself. I had only been a book coach for a couple years. I'd only been sober a couple years. And it was like I had vomited it. It was good, but I just was too soon. So I shelved it. And then I was helping another client pitch a traditional publisher. And a woman within that framework said, wait, you have a book about abuse and where is it? I'm a survivor. I'd love to see it. I sent it to her and she took me on and we rewrote 75%. There's a lot of 5 a.m. writing sessions, 7 edits. And now it's the book Now, No Longer Denying Sexual Abuse, Making the Choices That Could Change Your Life, which is really it's really what I did to get better. And it doesn't talk about really my abuse at all. I tell stories about what I did as a survivor who didn't really know that was what was driving me. But I'm really proud of that book now, although I don't pitch it that much as my brand, but it is out there.
Talk to me, Kim, about, you said you weren't ready and you coach authors.
Yes.
I'm curious to know, is that common? And how much of that is there fear there of, and I'm asking this because I'm sensitive myself. I'm about to publish a book in a couple months. And,
congratulations.
And there's part of me that is terrified of the vulnerability I put down on paper, exposing this to the world. So how much of that, I guess my question is, how much of the lack of wanting to promote a book is fear? Or vulnerability?
This is a great question. I'm so glad you're asking this question. There's a difference between terror of being seen, but being confident and actually not being ready. You've gotten far enough in the process where I'm assuming your book is like formatted and like ready to roll. I'd say 60% of my clients who decide not to publish their book usually make that decision after we're done with them going through the whole process. They realize the process itself was enough and that they don't feel comfortable they don't need to put the book out any longer. That is not like most. What's interesting, I've been noticing in the last bunch of years, because I've been doing this long enough that now I have like stats, right?
Sure.
And I'd say that of 10 clients, 3 will decide not to publish.
Okay. So it's 30%.
For the reason that, and 60% of those 30% is because of emotional reasons. The other percentage is because they just thought they had a brand and it shifted in the course of writing. And they found something else that's better. Like I always say, writing a book, if you want to find a brand that's within you that you don't know is there yet, write a book. Because you're going to find a new brand. And then and that's what happened to me with my second book, is I found a brand I didn't even know existed.
I read a quote this year, and it was something like, I write so I can think, or I think so I write so I know my thoughts, or something like that. But just to your point of, a lot of times when we write and process and work through those things, it does help us think and find ourselves, if you will.
Yeah,
or a better version. So you said about 30% do not do. I'm curious about this, Kim. Do any of those people come back later and rewrite a different book? Or is it just they went through the process and were good?
Not so far. I have a very tight-knit community. The people that have coached with me don't run these big businesses that grind them out. So I have intimate relationships with all my clients.
Okay.
It's maybe 60, maybe 70 people. It's not that many people. They know where to find me if they wanted to. And I do check-ins every once in a while. Hey, just curious, like if you're ever going to finish that book. But often I'm watching them on social media, or I'm seeing things they're doing. And I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense that they pivoted to that. And maybe they'll be back. But I think that coming back window might be 5 years. It might not be like the next year. So if I've been coaching people 11 years, if someone just worked with me 3 years ago and they ditched their book, they may not be back yet. Sure. So it's possible they could. I just don't think the window's that big enough yet.
Sure.
That's a good question. It's a really good question. You asked me about my second book, and I'll tell you that I had written a memoir, and then I treated myself to a writer's retreat in France in 2023. And I went with that memoir about buying a house as a single woman and like how proud I was. And so many women had told me like, oh my God, you have so much knowledge to share. None of us know how to buy a house on our own. So it was like a fun, funny, but deep memoir. And I did it in France. And then I came back and I was like, I don't know. It just doesn't seem right. I'm not like rich. What do I have to share about buying this house? So then I started writing about permission. And I wrote a whole book on permission, because I kept hearing it in women's groups, and I kept hearing it from men too, like wanting to give ourselves as humans permission to just lighten up the load. Our brains are just like constantly hammering us constantly all day long about how we're not good enough. And I wrote that book, and I met an agent, and I gave the agent that book, and she said, I love it, but there's something off. I can't put my finger on it. Will you go work with this book doctor? And I went to go work with this amazing woman, Robin Colucci, who's out of New York. And Robin is frank as hell, New Yorker all the way. Okay, which I love. I need those people in my life. And she's like, nobody wants to hear about shame and guilt. Women don't want to do any more work. Just be your fun, snarky, in your face self. And I said, well, that sounds delicious. And she goes, that's it. And now I have a book called Live Your Delicious Life, the guide to joyful random acts of self-kindness that is probably going to sell big. So but I had to throw away that permission book. I threw away a 300-page book. Tossed. There's not a single word of that in my current book.
I tell you, the process of writing is torture because of that. You're constantly editing, and it's hard. It's so hard, in my opinion, because you.
What's your book about?
It's called Kill Complacency. It's about being intentional with your life, and it's written to men. That's my audience.
I love it. I love it. I've worked with so many men as writers, and these are successful men, and I have seen them reduced to tears.
Yes,
writing a book with me, to tears. Not even because they're writing about something personal, just because of what you said. It's so much work.
The editing is torture.
It's brutal. But it's amazing. But it's amazing, though. It's amazing, but it's brutal.
Yes. Anyway, but you threw a whole book away. I can't imagine that, because just to edit, like, I'd be like, really? This is not good?
But I know enough to know it's not that it wasn't good. It's just, what is the best version? Look, you're going to put a book out in the world, and it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of effort. And most books aren't even successful till 5 years later. So you've got to slog that thing for 5 years. If it is not the best version of what you want to say to the world, you better not put that book out, because your subconscious mind will check out. It will check out. So the permission book was great, but the voice of it wasn't me being like funny and talking about stuff that doesn't require a lot of work. This Delicious Life is about taking 10 minutes out of doing everything for everybody else all the time, doing one small little act of joy for yourself. And I believe those build on themselves. And next thing you're saying to somebody, no, I don't want to do that. Find someone else to do that. And now you have a boundary, versus the book I was writing before, which is, you must set a boundary and you must, I don't want to write that book. I want you to learn through fun.
Yeah. That's good. Okay. So talk to me about The Delicious Life, the podcast. Did the podcast come before the book?
This Delicious Life is real. It's out there. It's happening. I just recorded 2 guests yesterday, and I've had on amazing guests. I've had Lauren Ekstrom, who's formed Interdimension Television with her partner Travis, and it's just the top amazing women who have a lot to say about living a delicious life. And that podcast is so I could just continue to build the brand while I'm finishing the book proposal. So this is the first time I've done a book proposal on a book and pitched it in a big 5, hopefully an auction type style situation. I have a lot of hope for it and your audience is male. And I'll have to tell you, I was at a New Year's Eve party and I was telling this couple about my book and what it's about. And always the guys are like, wait, what do you mean that book's just for women? Oh, what are you talking about? Like, why is that not for me too? And I was like, I guess maybe I should be thinking of it that way, not just for women, which is a process that will probably happen, right?
I think you have a timeless principle, but as an author, you've got to think about your audience. And if you can niche into men or women, like you have to write to that woman, even if a guy reads it and it becomes timeless. Right. So
listen to you being an expert.
I know. Not an
Is Kill Complacency just for men?
No. But when I wrote, I'm thinking of men. And when you wrote yours, I'm sure you were thinking of women. So that's all I know.
True, right. No, you're right. You got to have your voice, because your men will give it to their partners, their wives, their sisters, their friends. It'll catch on. My book, the women will suggest it, or it will become a New York Times bestseller and then everybody will want it. But for example, there are some books that'll never cross over, like Melanie Sanders, who just hit number 2 on the New York Times bestseller list, the We Do Not Care Club, that is for perimenopausal and menopausal women.
Yeah.
Only.
Yeah. I tell you,
only.
I try to be a good husband, and I'm understanding. And so I've tried some of those female books, and they are hard.
Right.
Conversation with my wife, but it is hard to get through. Unrelated to me.
Yes.
So
Yes. But I agree with complacency. I feel like my business last year got a huge hit. I think a lot of people are talking about it. 2025 was hard with politics. We had fires here in California. I had some personal transitions and my business just lost gas. And if you take the foot off your pedal at all with a solopreneurship, you just suddenly wake up one day and you're like, well, I don't have a business. It could be it could be that fast. So I went into this year in January and I was like feeling really complacent. I was like, God, maybe I'm not a book coach anymore. I was feeling down. And in the last week, I just refired myself back up. I was like, no, you've got an amazing product. I've got this book roadmap intensive. I know I can help so many people. Now I have signs all over my office and I got a new monitor. I killed complacency by refiring myself up.
Yes. And complacency is interesting because it's a lack of intentionality, but complacency grows on itself. It's kind of like boiling a frog. And the more complacent we get, the more we don't recognize it as complacency. And until you're in a bad situation and suddenly you're like, how did I get here? But it's one small choice at a time. So
I love that. Okay, so now you have to be on my podcast, even though I only have women guests. I think we're going to break the mold. No, this is something I think women need to hear about too. Like, I just experienced this. Like, I live on the ocean and life is good and I take walks and maybe I don't need to work that hard. And then one day I woke up, I was like, what the hell is going on? This isn't sustainable. I don't want to do this yet. Maybe a version of that, but I want my business back.
Yeah. And it's hard, Kim, because we want comfort and we crave comfort. But the problem with comfort is we never build the resilience and the character. And so when hard times come, we don't know how to put our head down and get through it, whatever the hard time is. Maybe it's an abusive situation. Maybe it's a family member with cancer or a car wreck or a business loss. It could be anything. And so it's important to build that resistance and resilience along the way and kill complacency. The way Kill Complacency came about is I really wanted to give back. You talked about 40s. When I hit my 40s, like, how do I give back? And I wanted to teach people it's about intentionality. Complacency is the opposite of intentionality. And so that's what it's just a better hook. Kill complacency.
Yeah, live intentional. It really attracted me to want to reach out.
I do want to talk a little bit about, because at the heart of killing complacency, I believe, is authenticity. And it seems like I read this somewhere. You talk about being honest with yourself, right? In writing. Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about the importance of writing and being honest with ourselves and therefore being honest with the world? How that all comes out?
Sure.
The intentionality.
I mean, you see it on like a place like Threads. Threads is like a more of a women-driven version of like Twitter, right?
Sure.
X, where there's a lot of women being like, I need to be honest with you, or I need to be honest, or I need to throw down. But these are little snippets, right? So when it comes time to doing something in like a big story, it's daunting because now you're like got to write more than just a little 2-sentence quip, right? Now you're going to get into the heart of who you are. And when we get into the heart of who we are, we have to ask ourselves like so many questions. What am I afraid of? What's going to happen to me if I get vulnerable? And our mind starts to tell us like people aren't going to like you and you're not going to sell something, or your family's going to get angry at you, or you're going to regret this, but you are already regretting not being open and vulnerable already. So you've almost got to throw the gates open and just run blindly and nakedly towards the finish line. I always say to people when they're writing books too, like I work with people now, my new model is I work with them in the first draft. I no longer work with them second, third, finish line, because I feel the first draft is that shaping where they really need the most emotional confidence and help to believe their narrative is critical. Or I do what my friend Robin did in New York, and I go, I think you could I think there's something bigger here. Are you interested in exploring that? And so I love working with them in that really deep, vulnerable space where they can rip their shirt off and just be there in their bra or their boxers, whatever they want, just naked, and just be like, this is what I want to tell about. And because I think I've been through so much as a human being, nothing surprises me. Someone wants to write about dating. I'm like, been there. Someone wants to write about divorce. Been there. Someone wants to write about single parenting. Been there. Someone wants to write about being broke. Been there. It's like, I'm not fazed by much.
Sure.
And that's helpful, I think, for people to know that I'm not going to be like, you know.
How much, Kim, of writing, a lot of people say I'm not a writer because they're thinking about technique, talent. So my question is, and I don't know if I would have asked this a year ago, but because I've gone through the process now, because that was me, like, I'm not a writer. But how much of writing is courage?
That's a great question. I'd say 25%. I'm big with the percentages today. I don't know why. I never talk like that. I don't know. It just must be where I'm at today. It makes a lot of sense, though, when you're on a podcast to give stats. But like 25% of the people that come to me are great writers. And they are the ones that say the most, I'm a terrible writer. The ones that are amazing writers are the ones that don't believe they're writers. The ones that are the crappiest writers you've ever met think they're amazing. And I love it because I edit a lot. I obviously have to edit in a different way, right? Because their writing is not great. Again, not like they don't have great ideas. They just aren't experienced in the best way to get them out. That's why outlining with folks, like if you came to me with your book idea, I would outline with you till the cows come home to make sure that when you do sit down, you have a lot of material to riff off of, so you don't go wandering off into no man's land, and that you have an idea of kind of the framework of the sentences and the shaping. But someone who I get the sense has a really amazing writing voice, I will let them wander more into the weeds because they'll just make beautiful discoveries as a writer. So if you're not a great writer, you need like a better container than someone who's a great writer, because someone who's a great writer does really need to wander more. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I wanted to thank you guys for listening to the end. In closing, I just wanted to add that if this message resonates with you, if it aligns with your values, and something in it today triggered something, then you can also look me up on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube. We are really trying to help people live more intentional lives to kill the complacency with which they have subscribed to. I know there's many ways which I get sucked in all the time. So if this is beneficial, follow me there.